Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to our beloved lecturer and to all my dear friends. Okay, my name is Nur Muhammad Syami bin Nur Arjuna, and today our group will be present about riba in contemporary muamalat. Okay, before I go further about our discussion today, let me introduce our group members. First one is Muhammad Azim bin Anwar, second one is Muhammad Farid bin Azman, the third one is Nur Farah Akilah, the fourth one is Nur Akilah, and the last one is Afika. The prohibition of riba without even a question is Islamic economics' most prominent element. Surprisingly, the meanings of the words aren't entirely clear. The famous issue is testified to by Khalifah Umar's sayings and various interpretations of riba. The term of riba can be varied in different meanings and can be categorized into three groups of viewpoints, which are consist of liberal, mainstream, and conservative. From the liberal point of view, they identified riba with usury, which is defined as an extravagant rate of interest compounded at short period of time. Next, from the mainstream point of view, according to the majority of people, any contractual that is increased, no matter how modest or huge, it is considered as riba. Finally, from the conservative point of view, other than usury and bank interest, they said riba covers all types of economic exploitation of the poor by the rich, such as profiting and giving poverty level wages to laborers. So the definition of riba. What is riba? According to Muhammad Ayub, riba derives from Arabic word which means exceeding or increasing. It is also frequently defined as interest or usury, and sometimes also refers to unequal trades, fees, and charges for borrowing that might result in interest payments. Sharia law bans the acceptance or payment of interest. This includes interest earned on a bank account and interest earned on any type of lending or borrowing. Alright, next is, according to Ismail Mustafa, he mentioned in his article that riba is a word that originated from Arabic word which bring the meaning of to exceed or to increase. He also mentioned that riba is likely a tax for the use of someone's money that is frequently referred as interest or usury in English. Okay, I give you an example. A person who borrow money from someone and want it to be returned with additional charge of 5% per month if he has not paid at the end of each month. So for example, I give you if that person lends someone 100 ringgit for 1 month, he has to repay a total of 105 ringgit at the end of the month. The prohibition of riba is clearly stated in Al-Quran and As-Sunnah. As example, in Al-Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 275, Allah said, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا فَمَنْ جَاءَهُ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَّبِّهِ فَانْتَهَى فَلَهُ مَا سَلَفَ وَأَمْرُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَمَنْ عَادَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. Allah said, those who consume interest cannot stand on the day of resurrection, except as one stands who is being beaten by Satan into insanity. That is because they say trade is just like interest. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted trade and has forbidden interest. Other than that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Al-Quran in Surah Al-Imran, verse 130, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَأْكُلُوا الرِّبَا أَضْعَافًا مُضَاعَفَةً وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Allah said, "O you who have believed, do not consume usury, doubled and multiplied, but fear Allah that you may be successful." Besides, Prophet Muhammad SAW mentioned in hadith about the prohibition of riba. As example, a hadith narrated by Muslim in Kitab Al-Hajj, according to Jabir ibn Abdullah, who reported on the Prophet's farewell pilgrimage, the Prophet addressed the people and declared, all of Jahiliyah's riba is cancelled. The first riba I cancel is ours, which belongs to Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib. wish the Prophet's uncle, and it is fully voided.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. My name is Nur Akila binti Shahrizal. So today I want to present about the contemporary issues related to riba. So the first is payment penalty fees and interest transaction. As we can see, this situation often occur in conventional bank, and most of economists believe that the market economy cannot function without interest, since one of the aim of producing more money is to earn interest. According to Dayan on 2020, interest is forbidden in Islam because it is considered an unjustified means of profit and wealth creation. Riba or usury is employed in conventional banking activities such as loan financing and so on. This is the example of situation that has been in conventional loan, and it is the occurrence of usury in loan financing. On February 19, 2020, the Mufti of Wilayah Persekutuan also says that the act of making conventional loan that have an element of usury is illegal. Even so, the sin of prohibition above is related to usury loan made while good purchased using usury can be used and become the property of the borrower. This view is also held by the Palestinian Fatwa Council, a collaboration with Kuliah Syariah, University Kebangsaan. The second one is riba in education fund. Previously, we were shocked by the issues of the education fund having a usury system. So, is the relationship between the student and PTPTN is a debt contract? So, PTPTN loans are contract between student and PTPTN that provide financial assistance or loan to eligible student. On July 28, 2008, the Muzakarah Khas Jawatan Kuasa Fatwa Majlis Kebangsaan bagi Hal Ehwal Agama Islam Malaysia convened a special meeting to examine the National Higher Fund Education, which is PTPTN, according to Ju'alah contract. Muzakarah conclude that PTPTN must consent to service charge imposed on student based on the notion of wages, which is ujrah, at the fair rate that does not burden the student. The fund may give compensation, which is a ta'wid to students who have found permanent and financially sustainable work but are unable to repay their loan. One is insurance. According to Dusuki on 2018, the majority of contemporary scholars also says that the prohibition of conventional insurance is due to the element of riba found in it, which is riba al-fad. Riba al-fad exists when there is an exchange of money for money that is usually not in the same rate, and this is because the insurance policyholder pays money to the company in the form of premium to obtain benefit or compensation, which is claimed also in the form of money in the event of a disaster such as an accident. It is usually because the amount of money paid by the insurer to the insurance company is not equal to the amount of compensation received. It is contrast to the concept of takaful. The concept of takaful is in fact based on the principle of ta'awun, which is helping each other. Tadamun muta'al, which is the meaning of tadamun is responsibility, and muta'al protection and guarantee, which are included in the category of contract tabarruk.
Alright, for the next part is the types of riba. In addition, riba has various types that are the cause of a transaction. Even according to the Hanafi, Maliki and Hanbali scholar, riba is divided into two, namely riba al-fad and riba al-nasiyah. While the Shafi'i sector added another types of riba, namely riba al-yad. Therefore, I will explain in more detail the types of riba in contemporary muamalat. Riba was originally riba al-duyun, which in other words, it arose from debt. It is a rate of excess interest, which is riba, that result from a period of time. Accordingly, this riba is divided into two types. The first is riba al-qard. Riba al-qard is the rate or any additional interest shown on the granting of the principal loan amounts. This condition is met at the beginning of the loan contract, which is imposed by the lender on the borrower. While the second riba is riba al-jahiliyah. This interest is about the rate or any additional interest in excess of the borrower's principal amount, just as a result of the borrower failing to repay the prescribed loan amount within the agreed period. So, the likely consequence is that the lender will impose a penalty rate on the borrowers because he has asked for the deferment of the debt repayment period or failed to pay the debt within the stipulated time. The next type of riba is riba al-buyu, which arises from the sale and purchase of ribawi goods. In another sense, riba al-buyu can be said to be the inequality of weight or quantity of exchange between two ribawi goods or the exchange in made in different manner. This round also has two parts. First is riba al-nasiyah or al-yad, where it is a person who trade or exchange between two ribawi goods of the same types in the different manner. In other words, not perfected in one time. For example, 1 gram of gold is sold at 2,000 in different, or another example such as 10 kg of rice is exchanged for 15 kg of weight in different. So, in the current context, this usually occurs when a customer has bought gold by deferring its payment. While the second type of riba is called riba al-fad, which is the sale of exchange between two types of ribawi goods of the same type with different weight rate and also quantity rates. An example is like exchanging 5 gram gold types 916 with 6 gram quality 750. It is illegal because supposedly he must exchange with the same quantity. This is because this type of quality will not affect the law. The same goes for an example such as someone exchanging or selling 10 grams of basmati rice for a fee of 15 grams of AI type rice. It is also illegal because the two items are supposed to have the same quantity of either 10 grams or the same quantity of 15 grams. Because there is a difference, then it will be categorized as riba al-fad. So, that's all for my part. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurul Afika. I will present implication of riba. Firstly, is riba in investment. An increase in the rate of interest result in a rise in the cost of investment, which has a negative impact on the overall investment in the country, such as making the product and service more expensive. Riba is also an inequitable wealth redistribution mechanism. Because of interest, the wealth distribution become unjust and unfair in the society. Whenever money is received for personal use, there will be an additional amount to be charged as interest when it is returned, which means the money saved by the poor would be transferred to the wealthy in the form of interest. This will make the rich richer and the poor poorer. Other than that, riba as the needy exploitation. For example, creditor delay their current earnings in order to profit out from the interest on the loans given to the debtor in the future. This results in the raises of the creditor's future wealth while decreasing the debtor future profit, because since the borrower must fulfill the debt obligation and pay it back with interest. In other words, riba makes rich people selfish and greedy, as well as resulting in poverty. Lastly, Riba implicates the economic instability. A high rate of interest creates significant uncertainties. In stability economy, because of interest, is such as recession, boom bust cycle, and recovery. Interest also generate inflation in the economy. This will result the poor to pays with interest and struggle with price rise. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So right now I will explain about the disadvantages of riba. Firstly, riba is centered on stinginess, hatred, greed, and trying to take advantages of the needs of others. Thus, it will destroy the bonds between societies. As a result, causing a gap between the elite and middle classes, which will worsen the poor in communities. All financial institutions will profiting and getting the benefit of everybody's needs and hardship. Next, riba has a negative impact on societies morally and humanity by promoting the desire for money to accumulate in few hands. It leads to an ever-increasing demand on risk-free capital-based equity capital, resulting in company failures, poverty, and ultimately gross income and wealth imbalances that are sure to lead in social turmoil and socio-economic failure. Lastly, riba contradicts the purposes of money. In addition, money is produced to be used for the purchase and sale of other products, not for the purchase and sale of money itself. Moreover, money was not designed to be earned, because doing so is an immorality. As a conclusion, Islam do not tolerate the unfairness of a financial being guaranteed of a favorable return. Besides, Islam seeks to create fairness between the owner of money and the entrepreneur. And also, riba is forbidden in the Quran in order to eliminate exploitation, injustice, and inequity.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Azim bin Anwar, and in this segment I will talk about the solutions for the problems, which is riba in contemporary muamalat. Firstly, as an individual, you have to learn deeply about riba itself. It is our responsibility to learn more about financial system, the form and variety of riba, to interrelate the legal law in muamalat, to accept it or avoid it. In hadith narrated by Abu Umamah, recorded in Sunan Ibn Majah, Volume 1, Book 1, Hadith 228, the Messenger of Allah said, "You must acquire this knowledge before it is taken away, and its taking away means that it will be lifted up." The hadith indicates the commands of seeking knowledge before it is too late or it has vanished away. Thus, shows how important learning about muamalat, which encompasses how Islamic financial systems affects the growth of socio-economics, and most importantly, taught us as individuals to decide and distinguish doubtful financial loans which might involve any usury or free from any type of it. Secondly, avoid taking conventional loans. Conventional loans were more likely tended to cause more side of losses to the borrower, while Islamic loans were vice versa. In other cases, conventional loans also agree to the terms, which time value is the basis for charging interest on capital, while Islamic loans only accept the profits based on the exchange of goods and services. In other words, conventional banks actually without conscious adopting the practice of riba in our life as a means to gain profits, as otherwise known as banking interest. Consumers are obliged to absorb riba automatically in any transaction or dealing, thus concluded on how conventional loans can be a burden for those who want to avoid unnecessary and excessive debts. The group of people, especially families, must uphold this as a concern, as they were also recognized as the target of the conventional banks due to their variety of priority, such as purchasing loans for education, cars, houses, and many others. Thirdly, control the ceiling rates of interest. The government itself should enforce monetary policy in order to control the ceiling rates of interest, which should be restricted for the banks from afflicting the customers For example, the Ministry of Finance gazetted the monetary policy for any financial institutions to set up any loans with reasonable interest not above than 10% due to the economic breakdown during the COVID-19 pandemic. And lastly, as a community, you have the power to boycott any financial or consumer's product which involve with riba. In terms of financial products, boycotting conventional loans not realistically block their ways of making profit but somehow benefit us. The banks will find an alternative for the customers to buy their products. For example, most conventional financial institutions nowadays in Malaysia, which provide loans, insurances and fixed deposits, alternate their portfolio by constructing Islamic banking under the same banks to attract Muslims, which holds the most consumers buying power. Examples of conventional bank which started to develop on building Islamic banking portfolios are CIMB banks, Maybank, RSB Bank, Hong Leong, and many others, which leads to availability of Arahnu and Takaful. That's all from me. Thank you.
Alright, from the explanation just now, we can clearly conclude that riba is prohibited in Islam. It is being supported by texts from Quran and Sunnah. Although there are proofs stating that riba is haram, many people still involved in this thing. What they think is they only prioritize themselves than other people who are more in it than them. Apart from that, the restriction of riba is quite difficult to comprehend due to a lack of understanding of Islamic ideals. So it is our job as a Muslim to acknowledge other people out there, either Muslim or non-Muslim, to stay away and avoid riba in their daily life. That's all from us. Thank you.